Taurus Necros Productions. I haven't seen you in a while. Hello, sir. How you doing? I'm one of the few Catholics that knows the content of the Bible in English. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I don't know how long you've been here, but I've been talking about, what does God have to really do with the Bible? You know what I mean? Yes, I was gone for like 3 months. Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw some of your videos, I think. What did y'all talk about? I just showed up. Yeah, so I'm just talking about why should we think that God has anything to do with the Bible, right? So, just to kind of give you a rundown of what I was talking about, like Genesis is not eyewitness testimony. Like Genesis opens up with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth, right? But who wrote that? Who watched that? Who stood there outside of time making notes as God formed the galaxies? No one was really there. There was no biblical cameraman floating in the void, right? No stenographer, no journalist interviewing Adam about how ribs taste when converted into wives, right? Moses wasn't alive for creation. Moses wasn't alive for Noah or Abraham or Joseph. So that's just one example. Yeah, jump on in, man. Yeah, in my opinion, I don't think it's so. I think that even the Bible says as much because, Moses didn't come on the scene until after, obviously, from creation, right? Nathaniel, how you doing, sir? Glad you could join me. How are you doing? I can't hear you, though. You're not coming through. There you go.
Am I coming through now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry to show up an hour in. I actually I pulled up your stream a little while ago, and I've been on YouTube a lot this morning. Actually, you're like the third thing I've done, but I had to do some business, and then the children went crazy, so I came late to the party. So, well,
right.
So you're saying, okay? So you were saying the Bible. I'll tell you my because I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, in fact, the church fathers would agree with you, and as far as the fact that Moses wasn't. I mean, if he was an eyewitness, it would have been like a mystical vision or something like that, which is plausible. I mean, here he is on the mountain. There's all these crazy things going on. That's when you would, But this is actually one area where I probably disagree with the church fathers. So that's kind of interesting. And the reason I do is because of archaeology, and it's secondary. It's a secondary witness and whatnot. It's because I'm not an expert in archaeology. So, but it's interesting that my theory about this, about how Genesis was composed, about the documents that were originally the Genesis documents that were originally used that Moses edited or redacted, I believe are eyewitness accounts. So,
and that
you ever encountered? Have you ever encountered that theory? Most people don't know.
Well, I've heard a lot of apologetics for it. I mean, but at the end of the day, I don't know of any evidence Moses existed as a historical individual. Like,
okay, sure, yeah.
I don't see any evidence that he's anything outside of a mythical figure, sure. Like someone who supposedly confronted Pharaoh, unleashed plagues. Sure. Led an entire people out of Egypt, wandered for 40 years in the desert, founded a nation. There's like not one single inscription, tablet, papyrus, chronicle, or monument from Egypt, Canaan, Assyria, Babylon, or anywhere else naming Moses doing any of this stuff.
Okay, well, if you want to start at that point, that's a little bit different. You were saying earlier, what you said right before I came on was that the Bible, because you were kind of taking the Christian perspective of the Bible. What does the Bible have to do with God?
Hmm.
Moses didn't witness creation, right? That was kind of the point of view I was going to deal with, because, like I said, I think I disagree even with most Christians about this, not because it's a disagreement, but because I think they haven't heard the theory. So earlier, you were kind of using like the presupposition that Moses did exist, and then you were saying if he did exist, he was an eyewitness. So that's
Right.
kind of what I was interacting with. But if you
Oh,
want to talk about whether or not Moses existed, well then we're not talking about the Bible anymore, right? Because the Bible just says he existed, so that's evidence. But if we're going to go outside of that, do you want to talk about what does the Bible have to do with God, right? Because that's where my mind's at.
okay. Yeah, we can talk about that too. Like, the Bible is a claim. Um,
Right.
the
Sure.
Bible starts off with, in the beginning, God created or whatever, right?
Right.
So it's sort of an assumption, I think, that ancient people would probably normally make, that there's obviously, we make tools, we make things. Obviously, there's a greater man that made me or that made the world. That seems to be one theory.
One
Now,
theory.
if
Yeah. I mean, there were competing theories. I don't know. It's hard to say what the uneducated masses might have assumed, because maybe you're right. They would have assumed somebody made all this. I don't know if
Mhm.
they would have necessarily assumed that one person made all of it, or that a person made it and it wasn't, because there were, but there were definitely educated ancients that believed that the earth was eternal, or they believed in long ages. Democritus believed in like random chance. I think Epicurus did. So if you're talking about like like the Greeks and stuff like that. But then, yeah, I guess if you go over to like Babylon and those kinds, the more Middle Eastern, it does seem like they believe that there's some kind of creation. Uh, I don't know how much I'm big into literature, so that's kind of my exposure into everything. And you encounter all this stuff when you're reading literature. I don't know how much they believe that there was a, a person or people, not humans, gods, that created, or that it was a part of, it was a god, like earth itself is god, you know and kind of created it, kind of molded itself into earth, you know what I mean, and the universe and all that.
Mhm.
I don't know how it breaks down, but I
Right.
don't. Maybe so, but these theories, as far as like an eternal earth and eternal creation, all that stuff, that's all ancient. I mean, Democritus and Epicurus and all these people, that people have proposed that. People have always been able to imagine that creation was eternal. I know the church fathers spent a lot of time arguing that against the educated pagan philosophers, against that point, and they always said, because we have scripture, we have what God told us. That's what they always said. That was their argument. And you
Mhm.
need that. You can't, if you don't have an outside witness, like you said, then you just assume things have been going on. Especially if you're educated, you often assume that things are going on the same way for all eternity, and there's never been a change. The laws of physics have always applied. You know what I mean? So,
Well, I mean, like for me,
mhm,
I used to be a God believer, you know, and I don't have a problem with, um if God were true or if
mhm,
God actually existed. It's actually it could be a cogent theory. I mean, I don't see it's any different than saying that we emerged from a multiverse or emerged from this and that or whatever, these sort of things.
I
Um,
mean, it probably comes down to what you think God is, because if you think of God
yeah,
as the foundation of like, God is truth, God is existence, God is being, well, then it's a logical problem. How do you have existence without, it's like Platonic forms, the existence as a form, you know what I mean?
right. And then, we have different frameworks for approaching the question that we can explore.
Sure.
Like for me, my epistemology always starts with you know, kind of like I think, therefore I am, or I'd rather say I
Sure.
experience, therefore I exist, because I'm experiencing an existence, right? But that's as far as I can go, as far as really some sort of high certainty or something I can claim that I know absolutely, which I do. I think that I can say the one thing I can't doubt is that I exist, because even doubting presupposes that I exist. So
Right.
I've got to exist. Now, everything after that is an inference.
Right.
And one
Sure.
thing we know about inferences is that we can be wrong. We're always questioning, we're always doing science, history, revisions,
Yeah.
paradigm shifting. Even in our own personal life, we're growing as people, we're evolving, we're changing our worldviews. We're going through all of this stuff
Right.
because we know that our inferences can be mistaken. And especially when it comes to things like metaphysics, which are things outside of I think, therefore I am, things that are sort of outside of bigger questions. These sort of things are what we assume, or their frameworks that we base worldviews on and things like that. And one thing I've kind of come to realize through my own life journey is that one of the things that really hurts us, just personally, is when we take our inferences way too serious, when we start to approach these things without humility, and we start trying to dogmatically, not just towards ourselves, but even towards others,
Oh,
about
sure.
these sort of inferences and beliefs and metaphysical pronouncements, as though we have some access to reality, the greater reality. No, we don't. The only thing we really have access to is that we're existing in a reality. And so while it's fun to sort of ponder these sort of questions and everything like that, I think it can be very dangerous when we start to think that confuse our beliefs. And even the whole idea behind belief is kind of dangerous for me too. It leads to a lot of what I would call suffering. It can lead to cognitive dissonance. Um, it can lead to a lot of dogmatism in societies and cultures,
Sure.
and it just leads to a lot of unrealistic shit. And I'm just not down with that right now in my life. Right now, I'm more about detaching from beliefs, not getting caught up in beliefs at all. Like just saying, you know what, I don't know, and I'm good with that. And I put more stock in my own experience, and even that you can question. Even that you should be skeptical about, to be a
Right.
healthy person, just psychologically.
Right. No, well, I don't disagree with any of that. I mean, I'm Catholic, and we have dogma, which is things you have to believe in order to be a Catholic. So it's kind of like, well, I'm here, so it's good to know what the requirements are. Um, and but I will tell you that, especially once I got online, started interacting with atheists and whatnot, especially in the field of economics. But people always bring that up. But is I have learned that I think it's very specific to our dynamic. I think that this time in history, with an American empire and English being the lingua franca of the world, I think that I agree with your approach, basically because I think English is so malleable that it's not like these intellectuals. It's not like Greek or Latin or Hebrew, which Hebrew is as degraded in many ways. It's not like those languages where you have this very precise, unchanging meaning to metaphysical abstract concepts where everyone can align themselves and then argue and debate, and be like, well, this is what you think, this is what I think. In English, I've done a lot of debates. It's usually one on definition. It's like you have to explain every little word. It's such an artsy language that's always moving and changing. And so the problem is like, okay, if I'm trying to understand you and you're trying to understand me, one of the worst things I can do is come in there and be like, I definitely know what I think, and I definitely know what you think. and well, we both think in English. So even if what we think doesn't change, the way of expressing it is going to change for a fact. So I'm amazed at the things atheists are right about. And one of the things, especially economics, one of the things that I'm very frustrated with, that I spend most of my time dealing with, is my own people and what they think they know that they're totally wrong about, and it is hurting people. It's the worst things in the world, because as a Catholic, the Catholic Church, the Catholic Church actually teaches all grace comes from the Catholic Church. So it basically says everything good that enters the world comes through the Catholic Church. Now, you have to unpack that. I'm sure everyone would disagree with that, but it's because of English. There's a lot other things going on there, because the angels and all these things you can't see are a part of the Catholic Church. So, it's more complex than it sounds. But point being that if there's something evil in the world, it's because the Catholics messed up. They messed up. So you really can't hold anybody outside the church responsible, because it started in the church. It always does. The world follows the church, Now that might be kind of too much to bring up with somebody. But
Well, it's commendable that you can sort of see both sides and see a lot of things, and that's really commendable on your part. And that's really what, where we definitely want to start, is to say, like, even me as an unbeliever, I always want to be open to things, but also want to be honest and genuine.
yeah,
So if, depending on how a person presents a belief system to me, I would have to do an internal critique rather than an external critique, right?
right.
Because I have to sort of, well, it's easy to debunk shit from the outside, because they're not basing it on your framework. They're basing on another framework.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
have to go within that framework and test it and see, well, even among the first step, even within your framework, is there a problem? And
Can I give you an example that might be
sure,
interesting? I
sure,
went on Talk Heathen. Do you know Talk Heathen?
yes,
And I called in, and I had an interaction with them, and I showed it to some atheist friends of mine, Pierce Watkins. I don't know if I got a chance to show it to Objective Morality, but some others. And they said that they kind of didn't like the way I was treated on Talk Heathen, because basically it unfolded like this. We had an interaction. We were talking about women and submission and obedience and these kinds of things that are hot topics. And I was very nice, and they couldn't get me to get into a conflict with them. So then they brought up uh, sexual abuse in the church, and and they were kind of mean at that point. They were holding me responsible for things that have very little to do with me. But
mhm,
I sat and I thought about that afterwards, and I didn't like how they treated. I don't really want to talk to him again, but because it was underhanded. But I really did think about it, and I released something later, and I was like, you know what, the church is abusive. It the church on earth. This is where it's important to understand. Like the church militant, which is always dying. People are dying, passing away, a new generation's coming constantly. It's like if you picture the church as a body, Holy Mother Church, the church militant on earth is like skin flakes. It's coming and going so quickly. The Pope dies, new Pope. That's not to say those things. It's not extremely important. Obviously, it is, but most of the church is the Blessed Mother in heaven. That's like over 50% of the church. So,
mhm,
if that makes any sense. But point being, on earth, the church is abusive. It's abused me. It's neglected me. And it's like, well, if I accept that, because and I can give you an example of how it's done that, but if I accept that that's true, well, how do I respond to it? Well, I also accept all these other things. I accept that the church is the true church, the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church with its head in Rome, with the Pope, and its Holy Mother Church, which is a spiritual reality that I understand my relationship to it. Well, what do you do? And it's also the body and all these kinds of things. What do you do with an abusive, neglectful mother? Well, what I would do is I would not listen to what she's telling me, or at least take it with a grain of salt. And there are some things I definitely have to accept that obviously what the church requires. It's not to overcomplicate. I'm not necessarily going to take everything she tells me to heart, and I'm going to provide and take care of her, and I will take care of her and provide for my mother. And and this is very important because I was talking to a Muslim about this, and she was like, "Well, do you admit that the Catholic Church has submitted to the liberal order?" And I said, "Well, it's complicated." But I said, "Thing is, I am the church. You
Hmm.
know, I'm a part of the body. So if the toe does something, the body has done it. You know what I mean? If I kick you and my toe hits you, I have kicked you. If the head does something, the body has done it. So point being, if I'm faithful and I'm good and virtuous, then the church is. You know what I mean? And so like the more that people complain about the Catholic Church, the more firmly I become Catholic because it doesn't contradict any of the truths that I've been taught about the Catholic Church. And the more I have to act virtuously. Not just virtuously, but like aggressively virtuously. I have to go and find people and try to be virtuous in front of them. You know what I mean? So
So you want to make change from the inside.
exactly. When I was Protestant, Protestants in America hate Catholic Church. They think it's Satan.
Hmm.
I was considering converting, and I did. And they were saying, "Well, don't you understand the Pope is the Antichrist?" And I said, "Well, the reason I'm going to convert is the Pope is because the Pope is the Antichrist. I don't believe that anymore." But what I was explaining to people is, I said, "Okay, so if you're at a chessboard, because I believe in the devil, I believe in evil. If you're on a
Hmm.
chessboard, if you're playing chess, and your enemy's always moving in towards a certain direction, you might not know what he's up to, but you can tell what he's aiming at, and that's where you need to move your forces. You know what I mean?" And so that's why I became Catholic.
Mm. Um,
And I probably got to go.
I-
So, but you ask me because my son's trying to talk to me. I didn't mean to hog the thing. What's on your mind?
it's all
But
good, man.
I'll respond. Then I gotta go.
Yeah, I was just curious, like and I say this even as being a believer at one time, but I don't want to project my own, motivations on anyone else. But I'm just thinking, what motivates you to believe in anything like that? Like anything like the devil, God, the church, whether it be Protestant, Catholic, what have you. What do you think is your prime motivation?
Um, that's an unfortunately complex question. Only because I'm 30 years old, so I've had 30 years of motivations, and over time, my intellect has been adapted to what I've gained. The motivation has gained the knowledge. My intellect has adapted it. So if you ask me why I converted, that's one thing. If you ask me why I started reading the Bible, it's a different thing. Why I started praying, different thing. Um, but if I say, well, what motivates me to remain Catholic? It's because I sincerely believe, and we could talk about where this belief comes from, but I do sincerely believe that there is heaven, and and earth sucks. I hate it. I hate earth. I hate the world, and I want to go to heaven, and that's the only way for me to go
Why do you hate the earth?
because of the suffering, because of the evil, because of the fact just all the things I see. It's horrible. I can't. When I thought this was my only place to be ever, it was so illogical and wrong that it made me suicidal as a young child. I was like, what's the point of this life?
What
You know?
do you your view of God? Would you say God is all knowing, all loving, and all powerful?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
Wait,
so
all
why
loving.
would
Really,
God?
all loving I'm iffy about, but go ahead.
So if God is all knowing and all powerful, and He doesn't like, I assume that you believe God doesn't like sin, suffering, and bad
Right.
behavior.
Right. Yeah.
If He knew all of this stuff from the beginning, because He's all knowing, then why does this evil world to begin with?
And this is probably one of the disagreements between me and God that I'm working on. Because I understand that I need to agree with God wholeheartedly in order to go to heaven. I would not. So he decided clearly that this was all worth it, you know, and his reason, and it's hard to understand this, is basically that the people in heaven, the people who make it to heaven, them being there and what they will gain from being there, if we call it a place, is worth all the suffering. All the people, there's many more people in hell than in heaven, and all the people in hell is a worthy sacrifice for people going to heaven. That's literally how he thought. And it's hard for me because it's like I wouldn't have been born if Adam hadn't sinned. You know what I mean? Most likely. I mean, he could have arranged it and all that kind of stuff. But no, I mean, that I naturally disagree with that. I think we should have just been born, gone to heaven. And that seemed to be
Yeah,
his
but
first plan, by
been
the
an
way.
angel.
When he originally made Adam, that seemed to be the original arrangement. And I don't know why he allowed this sort of sin. I know the theology behind it and everything like that, but if we're talking like my actual way of approaching the world, it's pretty hard for me to comprehend
Well,
it.
you're no different than a lot of people, including myself when I was
Yeah.
also a Christian. And one of the things that I observe is that you're attempting to believe something that you don't understand. You know, you have,
Sure.
like you said,
Oh yeah,
you
definitely.
have a disagreement with God, something you don't understand, and yet you believe it. So then you have to
Well,
ask yourself, what is the motivation behind going ahead and saying, you know what, I don't understand this, but you know what, I believe anyways? Is there, I mean, really
well,
think to yourself,
if we're going to talk about belief, the belief we're talking about there is that he he arranged this. So, and that's just from observation. It's like I observe the evil, I observe the good. It doesn't take that much intellect. It takes an intellect, but it doesn't take that much intellectual work to separate these two and say there's probably a possibility where everything is evil. What would that look like? There's probably a possibility where everything is good and there is no evil, and what would that look like? And it's like, well, this is what I call God. God good, this is goodness itself. And so that's, you know what I mean? So it's just observation. So this exists, at least in my intellect, I can picture it. Goodness only. I mean, I can't picture all its details, but no evil, only good.
conceive of it.
And then, yeah, so then the belief is like, okay, and then you have to there's some other things like what comes first, what created what, are they equal, is one above the other, that kind of stuff. But I have, for different logical reasons, believe that good is powerful and evil is weak. You know what I mean? So good is what created evil, um, and basically, therefore, so if good created evil, so yeah, so then the belief is he did that. What, then it's like I have no idea why, but I can observe that happened through those logical steps.
See, for me, this sort of wrestling that you're going through is something that I went through years and years and years to where I couldn't take it anymore.
Oh, sure,
Because
I believe it.
it's gonna where it depending on how seriously you take it, like depends on how it affects you, like how when, like, especially when it becomes more personal. Like, it's one thing to turn on the news and see the violence in the world, or see the hurricane kill the people, or whatever that is.
Yeah, but to know the guy responsible and be able to talk to him is a completely different thing.
Yeah, but when you deal with it personally in your own life, when you have a child that you
Oh,
love
yeah.
and they're taken for no good reason,
Yep.
or these things tend to make it more on the forefront.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah. That.
then, and a lot of this stuff is, it's easy to kind of just gloss over it. Like, it's more of an intellectual sort of exercise to say, oh, the problem with evil. Okay. But at the end of the day, though, we're not here. We didn't come from nothing. There has to be an explanation.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to opt out for it. But until it touches you personally, then it's
But
not going to be so easy to gloss over.
yeah.
And so maybe what I would invite you to do, just as your own exercise of your own freedom,
Mhm.
is to kind of look at other models. And maybe you are familiar with other models of explanation for different things, right? Like, Like there's cognitive and psychological theories that explain God belief, right?
Oh, sure. Yep.
And there's theory of mind
Yeah, I think
extensions.
Freud was one of the most famous ones.
Yeah, there apophenia, pattern
Okay.
seeking, um,
Interesting.
you know, um, and a lot of this stuff is based in minimizing existential anxiety. Like, why do we die? Why do bad things happen? What
Oh,
happens after
yeah. Well, it
with
definitely
someone in
minimizes that.
control? Yeah, like
That was
those
something
things
I had a
can
lot of
motivate.
anxiety for. Yeah.
They may motivate you, and you're not even aware because I always say this. Like me myself, I'm a non-dualist.
Mhm.
I lean towards an idealistic sort of worldview. But one of the things that is entailed in my understanding of my own self is how the human mind is so limiting. It's so its number one primary directive is to kind of fool you. And we have this hyper agency detection sort of natural inclination. you know we want to feel like there's a greater mind, there's where someone's with us in our corner. We're not by ourselves. We're social animals.
Right.
So obviously we're going to look at things like gods and spirits and ghosts and these sort of things as comfort, sort of like comforting explanations for why things are the way they are.
Right.
But if we
Don't
can
disagree
get
with any of
over that, if we can entertain that possibility, that model as just a possibility, then we can sort of explore ways to sort of transcend all that. And I guarantee you, man, if you do that and you start looking at things through a different lens, just a little tweak in your worldview, it's going to open up an entire different reality for you. And these sort of things, these sort of problem of evil sins will never come back and haunt you, because these things will at some point in your life. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to happen to you, Nathaniel. Eventually something really horrible is going to happen to all of us.
Right.
And at that point we're either going to rest on our ego, or we're going to have to run to our beliefs or something like that, and it's never ever going to fix it. It's never ever going to do that trick for you.
Well, I okay, I'll just tell you this, and then I'll bounce.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
uh, let's see, today's the 15th of January, and so it would have been, um, I believe late October 2024. My son died, and when he did, I went to church. I did run to my beliefs, and I even said to God, I don't know why you'd allow this, but I submit to you. You're wise and wiser than me and whatnot. So I did exactly what you're saying, and I will tell you that the uh, the fruit that has come from that act of humility and submission towards God, um, has has been the most fruitful. Everything I've done since then has been motivated by that. So, but anyway, so I have experienced that. All I'm trying.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I get that. I respect that.
Cool. Well, and we can get to know each other better. This is fun. I'm glad I was able to jump
Yeah,
in.
man. Thank you
We
so
got to
much
talk
for
more.
coming on and chatting with
God
me.
bless you.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. And I appreciate you, man, for coming on and
Keep up the
sharing your
good work.
story there too. That I know that's not easy to share, by the way.
Oh,
Um,
I mean, I feel bad like I'm bragging or something. So everyone's like, "Oh, this bad thing happened to me. This bad thing happened to me. That's why I'm better than you." I don't know. It's
no,
just I only bring it up if people touch on the subject. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I get it. I get it. And that's something worth thinking about, because on the other hand, I see a utility in beliefs too, though. Like
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
do see the utilities in it. And
Very useful. That's correct.
yeah, yeah. And like I say, it depends on
I
the
agree
motive.
with everything you're saying. It's like
Mhm.
comfort, existential anxiety is what I struggled with as a child. Constantly. The utility of belief was why I started praying. I started praying as an atheist because it was useful. Dale Carnegie told me that. So there's nothing I've disagreed with that you've said, really.
Yeah.
So like, yeah,
That's what we're gonna do, man. That's what I'm here for. That's what my community's for, is so we can talk, believers, unbelievers,
no,
of anything, politics, religion, whatever it is, because I really think that, as a society, we're now more than ever stuck in our echo chambers and
oh
bubbles,
yeah,
and it's
sure.
so much more productive when we can actually talk to each other instead of at each other,
Yeah, and
even
people
as
hate
an
each other.
atheist to a
Yeah,
believer.
people
We
totally hate
need,
each other. It's crazy.
yeah, we
They
don't hate
think,
you. We are all the same, man. You are me, and I am you.
oh
You know,
yeah, I mean, I can't be a Marxist, I can't be a communist, but I more and more think that it's like a few rich people that nobody knows that's causing all the trouble.
yeah,
And like all the normal guys, they're just trying to make some money on YouTube are fine. There's nothing, I mean, yeah, it's nice not to insult my religion, but I almost don't even blame you because it's like, look at how bad it's been, and like the church is supposed to stop this kind of stuff. So,
and
all right.
look, those call-in shows,
Yeah,
maybe
that's their
stay away
business
from them.
model. I knew
They're
what I
trying
was
to
getting
make money.
into.
It's entertainment, so just keep that in mind.
I
But a
get
show
it.
like this
I
one,
get
we're
it.
going to be open with you. So
I'm just a little sensitive, but I'm glad.
yeah,
I'm glad to be. Yeah, it was good talking to you. I'll have to come. I will come back soon. God bless you.
okay, Nathaniel. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. And if you got like my information or something, and you remind me, I'm sure I'm subscribed, but I'm so busy and there's so many notifications that I know your show's on Saturday, but I'll try to make it. What
Yeah,
time is
try
it
to
on
make
Saturday?
it, man.
What time is it? On Saturday?
12 Central Time, Central Standard,
Okay. How
right
long
at
do you?
noon.
How
Yeah,
long
we
do you?
usually go on for whatever, like sometimes as much as 3 hours.
Okay. I will.
So it's
I
a good
will.
window. Yeah.
I'm gonna put that in my calendar. It's nap time for the children, so it's always a gambit.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? Well, God
There
bless
you
you. I'll
go.
see you later, man.
Thank you, man. God bless you,
Thank
brother.
you. Pray for me.
All right. Yeah, man. We like to conversate and build bridges, man. And it ain't about the hate and everything like that, but it's always about trying to lift each other up and promote positivity in so many different ways. And that's really nice, man. But look, I am running a little bit over than what I had planned to do this because I got to go out and do my thing and try to make ends meet. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here, man. But thank you, everyone, for participating, watching the show, listening to my rants and everything like that. And until next time, man, we are out.